And we're back. We hope that you got some education. Mama V, good morning to you.
Well, good morning, Roland. It's day 2 of the partial lockdown in Accra and in Kumasi.
Well, definitely.
I don't know. I mean,
I wanted to ask you about your own assessment of the lockdown. You know, yesterday, I just thought that we're not, I don't know whether what we did or what we saw in the first day is what we were told would be done in relation to our own conceptualized lockdown, but, you know.
Well, I didn't see any roadblocks on my road yesterday. I didn't see today as well. So, but I saw very fewer vehicles today.
Okay.
Less people also on the road trying to get vehicles.
Right.
So I think gradually the message is, because if you come out and you don't get a vehicle, you won't come out tomorrow.
All right.
You get what I mean? So I guess with time, we'll even see less people coming into the, you know, the main townships to do business.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I saw a lot of road blocks as it is. So barricades of the police at every interspersed area, Spinters, Tema, Ashaiman, and so I thought, yes, the police were present.
Okay. I see that on the Kaswa Road is different, but on my stretch, on the Pokwasi stretch, unless they come after I've passed, baby. But I mean, it's really, really quiet. I still can't get used to the fact that things are really, really quiet these days. And we're beginning to see fewer newspapers as well. Some of them are taking a break.
Yeah, we only do have 3 today.
Exactly. But the Finder announced last week that it was going to take a break for the period that we're in this partial lockdown.
So too did the Dispatch, the Daily Dispatch.
All right. So we'll do the papers that we have. We'll go to myjoyonline.com. We'll touch base with the international media as well to see what they are reporting on this day. So let's start off. I'll do the Daily Graphic and the Ghanaian Times. First, the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page of the graphic, $100 million COVID-19 fund ready for disbursement, according to the finance minister who appeared before Parliament on Monday. First day of restriction. Travelers turn tricksters, desperate to move into regions. We've seen all sorts of tricks on the road, and the police, I think the one that's very disturbing is the one that Roland presented in the AM News with those who got to Ejusu before it was discovered, considering there were that many and we had quite a number of checks on the road. So what happened to all the roadblocks? I mean, what do they check really when they see vehicles is the question that a lot of us have been asking following that, you know, disclosure, if you like, in Ejusu. But 37 Tamale hospital staff quarantine. 37 Tamale hospital staff quarantine. That's a huge number, and that's what happens when we are careless. The few medical staff that we have will have to go under mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks before they are cleared to come back to work if they don't have the virus. ADB votes 1 million Ghana cedis for COVID-19 fights. Airbus SE Ghana bribery. Special prosecutor invites Samuel Adam Mahama, 3 others. And sadly, because of COVID, nothing else seemed important but coronavirus. In the center spread of the Daily Graphic newspaper, we will check, but let's go to the back page first. Let's do the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. 246 markets in Bono East and Ahafo disinfected, and that's on the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. GCB supports judicial service to fight COVID-19. The judicial service, well, the Chief Justice signed a statement yesterday on some directives for the judicial service. It would affect you if you're a litigant. So we'll share a lot of details with you and also speak to a private legal practitioner, a man who is very familiar with our courts, Mr. Martin Pebble, this morning. Let me do the last paper I have, which is the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Front page of the Ghanaian Times, Accra Kumasi deserted on first day of 14-day lockdown. Don't stockpile food. There is enough for all year. Agric Minister to public. Now, when I hear this, there are a few questions I want to ask. Like if you go to the market right now, you won't get, if you didn't shop last week, you won't get the things that you would need, like all of it. Do you get what I mean?
Yes, I get you.
You won't get everything that you would require for your home. So I guess the talk should have been accompanied by something. That way people would have been, believed in the fact that, oh, don't stock because you'd get it. Right now, when you go to the market, there are very few traders even in the market trying to sell food stuff. 37,000, let's go back to the front page of the Ghanaian Times. 37,000 police, co-military personnel deployed to enforce lockdown. Local government ministry, NADMO, Zoom Lion spray over 168 markets in 3 regions to prevent spread of COVID-19. And this activity will continue tomorrow, Wednesday. In the center spread, well, details of the stories on the front page, essentially in the center spread of the paper. So let's check what's on the back page. Former President Mahama donates to Rich Hospital. UPNMG, that's the Union of Professional Nurses and Midwives, Ghana, donates sanitary items to WA Municipal Hospital. So you see that COVID is also limiting contents of news these days. That's what you find when you grab the Ghanaian Times newspaper, front, back page. I wonder if you at home, you get out to buy the newspapers at least, with everything else going so quiet these days. Roland will do the BNFT, the Business and Financial Times.
Yeah, and it's focusing on one of our topmost stories and conversations this morning. We'll be having, streaming into the studio, Dr. Lord Mensah. He is a senior lecturer with the Finance Department of the University of Ghana, and that conversation is aptly just a little highlighted as we go deeply into it this morning with Dr. Lord Mensah on the front page of the Business and Financial Times. And it says COVID-19. And before today, the Business and Financial Times had always prefaced its main headlines with coronanomics. This shows you the impact, and the impact is steep. Oforiatta counts 9.5 billion Ghana cedi cost the economy. Crude oil 5.6 billion Ghana cedis. Non-oil tax revenue 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. And COVID-19 alleviation plan is expected to have a fund of some 1 billion Ghana cedis. And currently, China has had, based on what the observers has said, or the observer has said, has now had its projections now pegged at 0.1. That is, if the virus keeps affecting other countries the rate at which it is. And that is a big measure by way this has impacted our multilateral partners who contribute about 60% to Ghana's budget. Okay? And it should be a concern for all of us, whether you're a business leader, you work within a corporate institution or not. Other stories on the front page of the Business and Financial Times. Enough food available. Don't stock at high prices. The Greek minister is saying, and yesterday, Mama Via was having a conversation with a friend on one of our platforms, and I said, it looks like our top leaders are speaking to the real issues. Their plans have been outlined. It's the implementation at the lower level that I believe is a bit fraught with some difficulties, because when the minister speaks, then we need to have quickly somebody checking on the road that people don't travel in and out. You go to Agbogloshi, etc. Tell them, look, don't move. And we've seen the arrest in Ejuso, for example, culminating in all this.
This call about don't stockpile, I mean, isn't it coming a bit too late? I mean, it's happened already.
Yes, definitely. That's what we mean by all these conversations. Also on the front page of the Business and Financial Times, Mama V, it says ZPay becomes first non-bank institution to secure mobile money license. So we're going to have mobile ZPay mobile money, ZPay Momo. All right.
Okay, so with the newspapers down, let's turn our attention to myjoyonline.com. We've got plenty of stories on myjoyonline.com. We'll tell you what we're reporting. We also touch base with the BBC. Check out some of the African stories. Quite a number of countries in Africa are also on lockdown. But on myjoyonline.com, government denies claims some state officials have tested positive for coronavirus. Details there. And this one that made rounds, particularly yesterday, medical doctor at Lekma Hospital tests positive for coronavirus. Well, this was actually disclosed. A medical doctor at the Lekma Hospital at Teshi has tested positive for the infectious coronavirus. The Lejokuku constituency legislator Bernard Okoboy has confirmed. According to him, the Ghana Health Service, and this is the story on my jawline, the Ghana Health Service has already accounted for the unnamed doctor in the number of cases recorded in Ghana. He further announced that the Lekma Hospital will be shut down for disinfection today, Tuesday, March 31st. Meanwhile, it is alleged that the doctor operated on a pregnant woman before testing for the virus. He also reportedly attended to several pregnant women. The Ghana Health Service has so far confirmed 152 coronavirus cases in the country, with 5 deaths and 2 recoveries. Absolutely very disturbing, the fact that the Lekma Hospital will have to be shut and a disinfection exercise carried out today. Let's go back to myjoyonline.com. Coronavirus, minority vows to resist attempts by government to draw from Heritage Fund. 28 courts in Accra and Kumasi designated for only lockdown-related cases. If you have a case ongoing, what does it mean? What would it mean if you are just about going as well? We'll get Mr. Martin Pebble to help us with some of the answers. Coronavirus pandemic to cost economy over 9 billion Ghana cedis, according to Finance Minister. Ashanti Region Police vow to deal ruthlessly with lockdown offenders. 2 on mandatory quarantine in Bongo test negative for coronavirus. That's good news. Ablakwa makes 10 substitute proposals to government instead of depleting Heritage Fund. Police arrest Florida pastor for holding church services despite stay-at-home order. These are some of the stories on myjoyonline.com. Let's see what the BBC brings this morning, Roland.
Well, let's go through the BBC. A lot of stories, and again, these stories will tell you where we're heading as a world. It says World Bank warns of virus economic pain for Asia. The bank says major disruption to the economy across Asia and the Pacific seems unavoidable. We're talking about Asia. One of the big players is China. Apart from the United States, the biggest economy, China following closely until the virus hit us, wreaking the havoc that it is. China was supposed to have overtaking the United States based on projections.
But interestingly, Wuhan, it's been like a week since they recorded new coronavirus cases. They're beginning to losing the restrictions people are allowed to go out. So things are beginning to normalize after they went under lockdown sometime in January this year.
Yeah, definitely. And factories have started working as well, just in small numbers. But those cases now coming in are just from outside China as it is, and they're recording smaller numbers. We also do have Sierra Leone overturns ban on pregnant schoolgirls, other stories there, but this one breaks my heart. The Zimbabwean coronavirus victim died alone and scared, was a leading young broadcaster. Journalist in there.
I wanted to share a bit about this, the Sierra Leone case that you just mentioned. So there was a ban introduced back in 2015 as schools reopened after the Ebola crisis, which saw a rise in pregnancies among school-age girls. And so the courts in the country ruled in December that the girls were discriminated against and their human rights violated. Teenage pregnancy is a huge issue in Sierra Leone. So this overturned a 5-year law barring pregnant girls from going to school is such big news in Sierra Leone. So amid coronavirus, there are other things also happening.
Oh, definitely. It's now time for all of us to turn to sports. Benedict Owusu is here. Greatly impacted is the world of sports. And again, the stories keep trickling in, and Benedict is here with us.
I can't wrap my head around what Benedict is coming to share with us today. I really don't know. There's no action.
No action. Even
at least in those games that we follow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the popular ones. Even though the Belarusian league is still on.
Yeah, except that we know that people who are active in sports are beginning to raise funds for COVID-19. So I am curious. I'm sure you're curious as well. Let's see what Benedict brings in sports.